What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's me, Ayo, and we're going to be reacting to some crazy videos. Okay, guys, guess what? I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I've just seen this recently, and it's crazy. It's tons and tons and tons of stories. But basically, it's this trend on TikTok where they're doing this challenge where people go around and they're basically telling you about their scary stories or paranormal stories that they have that sounds completely false but happens to actually be true. So we're going to be taking a look into a few today. So we're going to get into that. All right, let's get into it.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I have one for y'all. I haven't shared this one yet because it really freaks me out. Same as the other 100 stories I have stored up in my noggin that I just haven't been able to bring myself to talk about on here yet. Back in like 2012, I was still in high school and I had an older friend who was a stay-at-home mom who had 4 kids. She was my best friend at the time. I spent a lot of time at her house helping her with her kids, helping her clean her house, just hanging out, having fun. She lived in this old white farmhouse out in the middle of the woods. And yes, we do live in the Appalachian Mountains. But the house always gave me the creeps. One day when my mom took me and dropped me off there, she was like, "Hey, my best friend used to live in this house." She said, "Has she experienced anything paranormal yet?" And she went on to tell me that one night her best friend was asleep in that house. She too was a mother. And so her bedroom was where my friend's little boy's bedroom was.
Wow.
So as she was sleeping one night, she was there alone and her husband was not home. She woke up to the covers being ripped off of her in the middle of the night.
Not.
So of course she freaked out and she packed her bags immediately and moved out. She got herself and her kids out of the house that night and never went back. So of course I shared this knowledge with my then best friend and I was like, "Has anything crazy like that happened to you here?" And she said, "No, we haven't really noticed anything at all." I don't know if me talking about it just made things start happening again or if she just started noticing after that. But that very night we were sitting there talking and we heard a Christmas bear going off in the attic. Like she used the attic for storage. And she had a stuffed animal bear up there and it played Christmas music if you squeezed its hand. So we're sitting there in this creepy old silent house. I'm sorry, I'm shaking. I'm freaked out. Just talking about it still really scares me. But we hear the Christmas music coming from the attic and we're like, what the hell? So she has her husband go and check it out and nothing's up there, but yeah, the Christmas bear was playing music. So after that, stuff just really started popping off. Walking past her little boy's room just gave you like the worst vibe ever. There were times we would be sitting in the living room, which was like on the other side of the wall to the little boy's room, when none of the kids were home. And you'd hear like their fire trucks making noise and playing music and being thrown across the room or rolled across the floor. And remember, that was the room that my mom's best friend had lived in and the blankets got ripped off of her in the middle of the night. One day we were sitting in her bed folding clothes. We were going through stuff, so she had a bunch of stuff sitting on her dresser. I mean, it was like piled up with stuff. We're sitting there talking, laughing, and all of a sudden, every single item that is on that dresser gets thrown across the room.
Absolutely not.
So hard that things were broken. That moment right there was probably one of the scariest things I think I've ever experienced. Whatever it was had a lot of force. And although they never noticed anything paranormal before I brought it up, I think it's worth mentioning that at one point in time, her and her boys decided to switch bedrooms. During the 2 weeks that they had switched bedrooms, my friend completely lost her mind and had to go check herself into an insane asylum because she wanted to end her life. When she got back home, they switched back bedrooms and she was fine. I truly think whatever demonic energy was in that room was just like preying on her and draining like all of her energy or something. I don't know. Yeah, I have so many other stories like that. If y'all are interested in hearing them, let me know.
That is crazy. So she still lives in that house after all of that, though? And was anything happening to the little boy? Because she went into the room where the little boy was and stuff started happening to her. And as soon as she switched back to her bedroom, she was fine. So was anything weird going on with the little boy while he slept in there, or no? I guess not. Alright, let's keep going. Guys, don't forget to like the video.
That sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I've literally watched all the stitches to this video, but this story that I'm about to tell today, even though it happened years ago, still gives me chills, and I feel like it has a lot to do with why I quit my job. So I used to work in long-term care, for those of you that don't know, pretty much a nursing home. I was a certified nursing assistant out of high school. This was my first big girl job, okay? So when I first started, I didn't know a lot about the different types of shifts, but there's pretty much 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. I worked the 7 to 3, which was 7 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. As time went on, I slowly started to transition to 3 to 11 to work around my college courses. But every now and then I would pick up an 11 to 7 shift. It didn't take long before I started working there where people were telling me about this one particular resident that had an issue with people of a certain color coming into his room. I didn't have too much interaction with this resident because, like I said, I only worked 7 to 3, and you didn't have to do a lot for him. Just go in and check on him and make sure he was okay. Bring him his food tray. Every now and then he might ask you for help to go to the bathroom, but that was about it. I had heard that this resident could get kind of nasty sometimes. I also heard that he had dementia, so he was like seeing stuff. And I also remember going in his room a couple times and seeing all of the mirrors in his room covered up. This is gonna come back later. So on my first 11 to 7, we'll call this nurse Patty. Patty pulled me aside and she was like, hey, this is the list of people pretty much doing the report for when I first, clocked in, starting my shift. She told me who I had, who was total assist, which I had to do everything for, and who I could pretty much, let. So I noticed that this list had this certain patient's number on it, this certain resident's number on it. His room number was on there. But instead of it saying, just limited assistance or whatever, it was like total assist. So I asked, I'm like, I know I have him during the day and I just go in and check on him and make sure he's okay. If he rings the call light, I'll go in. But other than that, that's about it. When did he become a total assist? So she proceeds to tell me that the night before, he got so scared and so frantic and thought something was in his room that he jumped out of his bed and fell on the floor and did something to his hip. So at this point, currently, he's a total assist, meaning I have to go in, I have to check on him, I have to do everything for him. I said, cool, no problem. I start doing my rounds, I start checking on my people, passing out ice water, changing people, as I normally do. Literally not even 15 minutes into my shift, his call light is on. I go in, I make sure everything's okay. As soon as I get in, I kid you not, this man is literally in the fetal position. I walk up to him and I ask him if everything's okay. Obviously, when I walk up to him, I'm very careful because, like I stated before, he did not like people of my color coming into his room. During the day, he would make a big deal out of this. Like, if he could get a nurse or a nursing assistant of a different color, he definitely would. He did not pay that any mind. He literally jumped straight into, they're in here, they're after me, please help me. I'm looking like, who is they? He's like, you don't see that little boy behind you?
Oh my
No,
God.
I can't say that I do, sir. So it took me literally 15 minutes, and by the grace of God, I was able to calm this man down. We're going to call him Mr. Johnson.
Scary.
After I calmed Mr. Johnson down, I left out of the room, and I went and did my rounds like usual. Literally, not even 10 minutes later, he's back on the call light. I said, okay, maybe he's got to go to the bathroom or something. I don't know. So I went in, checked. This time when I went in the room, I noticed that the room was extremely cold. Extremely cold. When I went in there earlier, it was not cold like that. Now, the nursing home, that nursing home in particular was a little colder on the graveyard shift. But when I tell you it was cold to the point where I could see my breath cold. At this point, not only is he in the fetal position, but he is also under the covers and he is also crying. So I walk up to him. I lift the cover up. I look under the cover. Again, he's sitting under there. We make immediate eye contact and he's like, help me, please help me. So I'm trying to calm him down because whatever he's seeing, I'm just not seeing it. So I'm like, Mr. Johnson, I'm gonna need for you to cooperate with me. I'm gonna need for you to tell me what's going on so I can better assist you and we can get through this shift together. At this point, I'm doing what I've been taught to do for somebody that's going through a dementia or Alzheimer's crisis, which is what I was told that he had. He calms down a little bit and he literally just starts talking. And when I tell you this got crazy quick, it got crazy quick. So he's telling me that when he was younger, about in his 20s or 30s, he was married to a young woman. We're going to call her Maggie. Him and Maggie had just bought a farm. It was literally just him and Maggie. And before you knew it, Maggie got pregnant. Back then, it literally wasn't uncommon to have people of color hired as help to help you on the farm, to help you raise kids, whatever the case may be. This was post-slavery, but people was very much still feeling entitled to doing whatever they wanted to do to people of color. So that's the time frame. He tells me that months go down the line, whatever. He goes and he wakes up early one morning. He sees that his wife is a little uncomfortable. She tells him like maybe the baby's coming or whatever. He doesn't think nothing of it. He goes out, get on his tractor, and he does his farmer work. He has a farm hand named Tommy. Tommy is a black man, okay? Around lunch, he's guessing is when his wife went into labor while he was still out in the field. His wife called her mother-in-law, which was Mr. Johnson's mom, her sister-in-law, and his brothers came as well. Everybody's making sure that everything's going okay. The baby is finally born at some point. When the baby is born, I guess everybody in the room looked around at each other and realized that this baby was not in no way, shape, or form.
The baby was black.
The brothers immediately take the baby and they go outside. His mom sits there with her and they snatch this baby and they take the baby outside. Meanwhile, all this is going on. Him and Tommy are still out in the field. They took this baby out into a body of water, and I will not be saying what they did to this baby, but you can only imagine for the time period. Him and Tommy finally wrap up their work for the day and he heads back to the house. When he gets inside the house, he sees his wife sitting there with his mother. His wife is crying. His mom's just sitting there irritated and pissed off. He asks what's going on, and that's when she gives him the whole rundown that your wife was pretty much sleeping with your field hand, and this is the situation that you're in. So he asks, where's the baby? And the mom says, your brother's taking care of it. Don't worry about it. You need to figure out what you're going to do with her. Meanwhile, this is going on. His brothers have went and got Tommy out of the field. The things that they did to Tommy, again, I cannot describe it here on TikTok, but just imagine the torture and everything that he went through. They literally just left him there in that field. They left him there in the middle of the field. This man proceeds to tell me that when he finally figures out what happened and what his brothers did, they literally acted like nothing ever happened. And every night, Tommy and his son will come and visit him like clockwork. At this point, when I tell you the chills are running up my spine, literally every hair on my body is sticking up. I don't know what to say. I'm like, when they say frozen in fear, I was frozen in fear. Because it's like, as soon as he told me that story, I could pick up on what was in the room. Before, I couldn't pick up on what it was, but I could immediately feel something else in the room with us. After he told me the story, I finally got him to calm down and he went to sleep. He slept for literally a couple hours, and at this point, we're at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like clockwork, he hits that call light again. I go back in. I remember walking into the room and all of the sheets were taken off of the mirrors, which I thought was very strange because he wanted his mirrors covered up for a reason. I went over to Mr. Johnson and I touched him to make sure that he was okay, and this man was ice cold. He had died. As I went to leave the room to go contact a nurse, oh my God, I'm getting chills. I'm literally passing by this mirror, and as I'm headed out, on my left is the mirror. I turn and look in the mirror, and behind me, to the far wall of Mr. Johnson's room, I see a taller figure, and I see a shorter figure standing beside this taller figure that I would say is probably about the height of a 5-year-old child. I have never seen nothing like that in my life, ever. And I cannot explain the amount of fear that ran through my body, but I got out of that room so quick, I will tell you that. The crazy part is that when the nurse came in, we could not understand how these mirrors got uncovered. Even the one in the bathroom was uncovered. The one in his room was uncovered. Again, this is a man that just hurt his hip yesterday. There's no reason why he should have been out of bed taking these blankets off this mirror, and I know he wouldn't have done it anyway. Also, the fact that she felt like he had been dead for longer than I said he had. But again, I had just talked to Mr. Johnson. I had literally just talked to him. So I don't understand how a dead man talks, but maybe y'all can let me know. And when I tell you, baby, I only lasted 3 more days after that. I didn't sleep for days. I said I'm not coming back.
Trigger warning, I'm gonna mention, it's taken me so long to tell this full story because it's genuinely one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me. So when me and my husband bought our first house, things started to get weird very quickly, but it took about 2 years before it all came to a head. The first thing that I noticed is every morning when I woke up, even though I had tucked all the chairs into the kitchen table, one chair was always in the same chair, was always taken out from the table and facing down the hallway, which was where all the bedrooms were. That happened for a while, and it took me a minute to pick up on the fact that it wasn't my husband doing it, and my husband picking up on the fact that it wasn't me. Then I started to walk down the hallway like at night, and I would see the chair facing me, and nobody's sitting in it, but in the reflection of the like window right beside the table, there was always an old man sitting in the chair. I didn't think anything of it because he didn't seem to creep me out, like timelines passing, whatever. Then one night I'm having a dream, a sleep paralysis dream, so I'm like awake, but not really. And I see a shadow, a very tall, like 8-foot, very skinny shadow, standing and leaning over my husband like this. He's sleeping. The next morning when my husband wakes up, I told him like, I saw the craziest thing standing over you. I don't mean to scare you, but I saw something. And he was like, stop, because I had a dream that I opened my eyes and there was nothing but like black staring at me. And then I told him what I saw, And like, I mean, you just like that kind of coincidence. A few months go by and then we're sitting in the living room, and this is a house that was built in the 60s. So we had this like big bay window in the living room, and we were on an acre, and basically all of that acre was our front yard. And we hear scratching on the front window, on the outside of the front window. And it wasn't anything like a raccoon, or it could have been anything like that. We were still in a neighborhood, and that just wasn't something we often saw. I mean, the front porch was literally like this big. I wouldn't even call it a porch. So me and him get kind of like uncomfortable and weird. We're like, let's go back to the bedroom. We go back to the bedroom and we lay down, and all of a sudden we hear such a loud bang. We thought that both of our bookshelves, we had like 8-foot tall bookshelves in our living room with we collect old books and like all the old National Geographics. We heard them fall, and both of our cats went running to the back of our house. They came running under our bed. And so we slammed the door. We start kind of like game planning, like, what do we do? What do we do? We're thinking somebody's in the house. They just like busted our door down, and the bookshelves fell, like something's going on. We get some protection and we go out to like see what's happening. Nothing was out of place. Nothing had fallen. Nothing. And we know we weren't crazy because our cats reacted. Then I had a baby and I brought her home, and babies always stare and do weird stuff. But one of my first viral videos was her staring behind me like this. I had her on my knees and she was looking behind me, and she's laughing and playing with something behind me. And as I pan the camera, you see white movement like right here. The video's on TikTok, so we can find it. I would say about a month after that, I was rocking her in her room at night. I was fully awake. I was not dreaming. I was not sleepy. Like, I'm full mom mode. I'm up. Her bedroom looked all the way down the hallway where that chair is facing me, as it has for the last 2 years that we lived there. And as I look up into the hallway, I see facing the corner, like looking into my bedroom, because her room's here and my bedroom's like here. So standing, looking into my bedroom where I'm in her bedroom, is a full-on hooved, extremely tall, horned. I immediately start praying. I immediately out loud start praying. And of course, this is at 3 a.m. So the next morning, I tell my husband, I saw something crazy. I'm getting out of here. And he said that he looked over on the monitor at about 3 a.m. and he saw something moving around in the bedroom. Mind you, this is when I was rocking her, and the monitor does not face the rocking chair. So I loaded up my baby. We went to a Catholic church, and I got christened. I got a christened cross, christened blessing. I filled up a whole water bottle and 2 little Tupperware things of holy water. I had an entire, like, the cross hanging on the entryway of our house. I walked around. I had one of my Catholic friends come over and bless our home. I walked around dousing holy water and praying over the entire house. I bathed my daughter in holy water. I bathed her in holy water. That's how much holy water I got. They probably thought that I was insane. And then every night before bed, I would bless her head, and I would bless every single one of, like, me and my husband and every doorway in our house. After that, we never had another incident. To this day, it's one of the scariest things that has ever happened to me, and I still carry that cross around. It's about this big, but it comes with us no matter where we live, and it's always over the entryway that leads to our bedrooms.
No. I don't know if y'all have been seeing this creator's video on your For You page, but she's all over mine. She made a video saying, tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. If you know me, you know I have a lot of those, and I come with receipts. So my mom, my dad, my sister, and her newborn baby had just moved to this small town in the Midwest called Liberty, Missouri. Now this town is very old. It has a lot of history. The house that we bought and we moved into, I don't think was haunted, but I think it was more so the land itself that was haunted. To kind of give y'all an idea of just how old this town was and how much history it has, this building that's behind me is called the Oddfellows home. This building was built, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think in 1893. So very, very old. It's been a hospital for the mentally ill, the physically ill. I think at one point it was an orphanage. So this town has been around for a while. For the entirety of my mom's life, she's always had a lot of supernatural experiences. She's been very intuitive. So right when we moved in, she kind of sensed that there was some sort of entity or spirit, and we always thought it was kind of a childlike spirit just because it was more so playful, and it just played a lot of pranks. It never really threatened us or our safety or anything. Now, as mentioned before, it was my dad, my mom, my sister, and her newborn baby living in this house, and the most activity happened in this room, which was the baby's nursery room. The doors in this room would always open and close by themselves. My niece would wake up in the middle of the night or like really early in the morning around 3 or 4. She would stand up in her crib looking out over the room, yelling into space, yelling no, yelling stay back. I'll show those videos in a second. I would say the creepiest part about this room was that in this closet, which the door never stayed shut in this room, in this closet there's like a little crawl space that was kind of locked in. Here's a better picture of the door. You can actually see in this photo that this door is like cracked open, and that's like how it always stayed. No matter how many times you shut it, that door would always open back up. Now, this bedroom was actually a Jack and Jill bedroom, so there was a bathroom connecting these 2 bedrooms that were right next to each other, and this bathroom is probably where the most creepy thing ever happened.
Oh,
My
wow.
sister got out of the shower
Look at
and
that.
saw this on the mirror. Now, mind you, she was the only person in the house. My dad was visiting family in Iowa. My mom was on a work trip. I was down here in Texas with my husband. And at this point, she had been alone in the house, just her and her newborn, for a week. This was the last day of the week that she was alone. And she takes a shower, and she gets out of the shower, and she sees this on the mirror. Mind you, we have lived in the house for like a year at this point. We've taken so many showers. That mirror has fogged up so many times. Never ever has a message been written on this mirror. Now, this is kind of where we were validated in the fact that we thought this was a childlike spirit. Not only did it play pranks and kind of mess with us like that, but we think that this spells out Anna Bo Anna. And then there's 3 little stars. You can't really see that one, but there's 3 little stars underneath it. And this just really confirms that, like, we were right in assuming that this might be a kid. As mentioned previously, my niece would, in the middle of the night, stand up in her crib and look out over the room and yell things like no and stay back. And I will show you guys that right now. Another thing that would happen a lot in that nursery was we would see a lot of orbs. And I know orbs are controversial, okay? A lot of people are like, oh, they're bugs, or oh, it's dust, or oh, it's just light from the camera and reflections and refractions or whatever. But just like the way that these were moving, like they had to be orbs. They had to be orbs. And I'll show you that now.
Yo. What does that look like to you guys? That look like orbs to me. Especially that first one.
The last video that I'll show you is me walking in the bedroom. As I mentioned previously, doors would open and shut by themselves all the time. Now, I understand when you walk through like a doorway, sometimes the door will close behind you because of the wind, but usually it needs momentum for the door to completely latch. The video I'm about to show you, I walked through the doorway at a normal speed, like I'm not running through the doorway, and you can see it slowly shut, and the door completely latches. No way that door completely latches with as slow as it was going. Watch.
Okay, that's her. Yo, it's closing. It latched.
Completely latched. So to wrap up the video, I'll tell 2 more stories. I don't have any videos or pictures from these, but pretty sure y'all can take my word for it. I'm obviously not lying here. My first ever like encounter with this spirit entity, whatever it was when we had just moved in. It was late 2019. I was just diagnosed with ovarian cancer, so I actually just had a pretty big surgery, and I was on some pretty hefty pain pills. I was on hydrocodone, so initially I thought I was just seeing things, but I'm upstairs, I'm in the Jack and Jill bedrooms. The bedroom that I'm in, the light is off. The bathroom that is connected to the bedroom, that light is on. So I wake up and I look in the doorframe of the bathroom and I see a figure. And it's nobody in my family. It doesn't look like anybody in my family. I see the figure, I get up and leave the room. Like, I don't stare at it, I don't interact with it, I just get up and I leave. I go downstairs. All my family is downstairs. Nobody was up there. And then lastly, probably the craziest thing, so it was just my mom, my sister, and the newborn. It was around the winter time, and it was about to be a big snowstorm. So my mom and my sister left the house to go run a bunch of errands before all the roads closed. They get back home with all the groceries, and they take out the groceries in the car, and they take all the bags and place them on the counter. Now, mind you, no food is put away, no groceries are put away. They just simply put the bags full of food on the counters, and they quickly realize that they forgot something. So they leave, they come back with the thing they forgot. When they walk in the front door, they see all of the food, all of the groceries that they brought in and kept in the bags are out of the bags, just haphazardly placed around the kitchen in like the most random spots. And probably the weirdest, like tiniest creepy detail of the whole story is the twist ties on like loaves of bread that was taken off of the bread, and it was placed on the edge of the counter, sitting up just like a little person with its like little legs crossed. So those are probably like the craziest stories that I have from that house. Like I said before, if you know me, if I know you, you've probably heard these stories because I literally tell them every chance I get.
Wow. I have tons of scary stuff and paranormal stuff that has happened to me. Maybe one of these days I would make a video and get into it. But yeah, it's crazy. But that was pretty cool. Like, that was insane. I want to know if you guys have any paranormal or scary stories that you have and that you would like to share and tell me, because I would love to know. But until next time, guys, I'm out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. I'm out of here.